after the COVID. After the COVID-19, he was mentioning the impact goes far beyond the disease itself, with far-reaching consequences for societies and economies. And that's what he said. And I think it's true when we see what happened in 21, 22, and now we are getting on to 23. The impact of that, of the COVID-19, in fact, once I spoke on the new normal, many of these things now we have our meetings on Zoom. That's something that's getting to the normal of meetings of the service of Buddha. So so the importance of changing our lifestyles was stressed at that particular time for each, and because each one of us could contribute. Even now we have this financial problem in our country. We have not overcome those things, and each one of us could contribute by changing our lifestyles. And that's important because, you know, our compassion, the Buddhism is a religion of compassion, and we have compassion on everyone, on every human being, not only as from Sri Lanka, but the Sri Lanka we have, especially because of the financial problems that we have. So, we also reminded that in that issue, in that particular address, I mentioned about the hindrances, the five realities, whatever it is, the realities that there is, all of us have to reflect on. Aging, with birth becomes aging, illness, and the death, and the consequences of death. That means, you know, we don't take it, all whatever we accumulate during a year. We don't take any one of those things. During our lifetime, we be accumulating many things. We'll be accumulating books. We could accumulate property. We could accumulate maybe even honors. But all those things, you know, it's only for so long as we are in this particular lifestyle, and when we die, it's all over, right? It's remembered, possibly others, and also what we take is our karma, the good karma. So these are things that that we stressed when we mentioned there is a deal of significance, but not to be you know, deterred on our path because of what's happening outside, and that we have to have developed ourselves. We urged everyone to make 2021 a year of significance for oneself by living the Dhamma. Because that time we were now again, there is COVID, I hear in China, it's very, very bad, I don't know. And the thing is the opening of Sri Lanka and the coming of tourism and tourists. So we have to be very cautious. We don't know that, you know, the death is something that could come at any time. So we have to be all conscious of that. And in fact, I mentioned in one place, we have to look at life through the eyes of death. That means, you know, eyes of death means that we should be always conscious of that. And that's why with that, we came to the last year's talk when we said apamade, sampadeta. You know, so that means we have to, without further, you know, strive on in our path to deliverance. So that's extremely important. Because whatever said and done, Buddhism, or the Buddha Dhamma, each one has to find his own liberation. And we have to take in that particular talk, I was mentioning that whatever you face in life, take them as challenges, take them as something that, you know, and we have to face those things. And once we face those challenges, taking them as challenges, they should not, you know, and go forward. You know, we discussed the types of problems, you know, and we said it's possible. I may remember the Kalyana Mitra that it's a year of crisis, but let us make as a year of change, the year of change in our lifestyles again, because it's extremely important for us to change our lifestyle if we are to exist in this world, because we are speaking of the climatic changes, we are thinking of the changes that are happening, even now the blizzard in the USA, and all those things, still we don't want to change. We just want to continue as human beings. That's our natural tendency with our craving and everything. That's why the Buddha's teaching is called akalika for all times, because those tendencies are there. And the whole world as such, is to satisfy those sensual desires. It's to satisfy those things, the five senses. All the whole world, if you look at it, but that doesn't mean that we are the Buddhists have a morose look or something like that. No, it's not that. But the thing is, we have to understand the temporary nature, the transient nature of all the happinesses that we have, whatever is said and done. So we discussed all those things, and we say the hindrances, the progress we had, in each individual, even as a country, just because of our leanings to sensual desires, hostility, hostile nature, the mental and physical lethargy, that's lethargy, restlessness and worry, and also the lack of confidence and the doubt that we have. So these are, I didn't use the word pancha nivarana, but if I use it, it's the nivarana. But why I did not use the word nivarana is sometimes, we when we study the Dhamma, we just take them as what are the pancha nivarana, like the questions that we get in the examinations, maybe the GC ordinary or something like that, even the Hampasana, you name these things. It's not naming that is required. What is required is to understand that what is it? Isn't it true? What is it that has hindered our own progress? Each individual has to think of it. And what has hindered? And when you think of this, these are what the Buddha has mentioned as panchanivarana. Those are things that comes to our mind. Sometimes we have an hostile attitude to something. Sometimes we are very lazy physically, we are mentally, we are lazy, and especially if we do not lead a moral life, we have so much of worry, the remorse that's there, and we don't our own confidence in ourselves. And the most important thing is to have that confidence in ourselves. So these are some of the things that we are mentioning. And then we have to develop the strengths. And I mentioned, there are certain strengths that has to be developed to meet these situations, to meet the world, the outside world. And they were identified as saddha, faith and self-confidence, gratitude, the most important thing, gratitude to oneself and also to gratitude to the society. Then we have the restraint, the most important thing. You see what's in the papers today, what's happening when there is no restraint. The restraint, boundless loving kindness, apameya, boundless loving kindness. These are not words, they have to have develop that within. The boundless compassion, and so these days especially, when there is so much of malnutrition in the country, there was so much which is highlighted. Even recently, it was highlighted in the BBC. The people, the children, they can't send their two children. They have to, send one child today and the next child another day. This type of thing, I do not know whether it is done, but this situation. But we have to have, along with compassion, attitude, gratitude, generosity, along with compassion, generosity. It's just not saying these things are happening, but we have to be able to give up something, let go something, and then help others. These are certain qualities that we have to develop, and then the joy, the equanimity, and effort and patience. So some of those qualities that we have to develop. So and these inner strengths have to develop by striving relentlessly. That's important, by striving relentlessly on time, leading to the final goals that we have. So from there, if I am now take on the subject that we are taking today, Ma Nivatta Abhikkhava, that is, that's forward, go forward with firm determination. The Pali words, the Ma Nivatta Abhikkhava, I have seen this as the motto of certain schools, Ma Nivatta Abhikkhava. And also I found recently that in one of our Gamanu regiment, the army, they also have this Ma Nivatta Abhikkhava. You can, the point is, if in the army, Ma Nivatta Abhikkhava, it's also, you can go forward without turning back. But things, the Buddha, why, the context in which these words have been used is something that we should understand. Where did it happen? Where did it occur? And with that, what is it that really we have to do it? These words, Ma Nivatta Abhikkhava, it appears in the Khuddaka Nikaya. There is a book called Buddha Vangsa. Now, Buddha Vangsa is translated by I.B. Horner by the PTA. They said chronicles of the Buddha, but actually it's not the chronicle. I'll explain. It's the lineage, the Buddha lineage, not the chronicle, Buddha Vangsa. Because maybe like Mahavansa Chronicle, Deepa Vansa, like that, they translated Vansa as a chronicle. But the better translation, I would say, would be the lineage of the Buddhas. And it's very apt, I think, we will understand. So it's the last book, last book of the Khuddaka Nikaya. There are 15 books according to the traditions that we have in Sri Lanka. But in Myanmar, there are three other texts that are included in the Khuddaka Nikaya. We include in Milinda Panna. Milinda is the Minanda. That's very about the 1st century before BCE. So that's the point is that when did, according to the Buddha Vansa, if you just go through that, those are verses. It's very interesting, and it occurs in the Sumedha Katha. So one part of the Buddha Vansa is the most important, Sumedha Katha, Sumedha. So now that's, as you know, the ascetic Sumedha, and he got this first assurance to be a Buddha from Dipankara, and it occurred when from Rajagaha, the Buddha went to Kapilavatthu on invitation of the kings, and on the first day itself he went with the begging bowl. When he went on the begging bowl, King Suddhodana came, sent his people and said, "Why are you doing this? Why are you? It is not you are the son of the Sakyans. You are disgracing us. Why do?" And the answer of the Buddha is, "I don't belong to the Sakya clan. I belong to the Buddha lineage." And Buddha lineage. And then with that, Venerable Sariputta was there, wanted the Buddha to tell something about this Buddha lineage. And the Buddha one says that means it's recorded that way, that the Venerable Sariputta made the invitation. And that's quite interesting things, when you note it. Even now, in the sense, you don't just go talks in here and there, but it's always on invitation that a person goes. There is a tradition that come in from those days to even today. The monks just at that time, you may know that some of the ascetics, they put up a flag and say, right, come for a discussion. And if somebody takes that flag off, then you start the discussion. But it's not so with regard to the Buddhas. They have to be invited, and this is a tradition that is there. So even Venerable Sariputta, the Buddha made this invitation to the Buddha to explain what is the lineage. Then he started this guy. He made this the the Buddha Vansa was related by him from the time of King from Dipankara. Now there it's one of the verses in that comes this particular term, and this is the verse Dalhang Pagganta Virya. Dalhang Pagganta Virya. Manivatta Abhikava. Mayam Petam Pajanava Duang Buddho Bhavishyati. Now, the Buddha, I think that we know from the Jataka stories, the Mahatuposaka Jataka, and how he, the person, that this particular life, how he saved his mother. And then kept when there was a shipwreck, and then there it was mentioned the mother said, "One day may you be a Buddha." So possibly I do not know this Buddha's word, and what happened in this particular life when Dipankara, when Buddha Dipankara was going to a particular village. I can't remember those details, but ascetic Sumedha. Now he was in the Himalayas, and with his psychic powers, he had developed his psychic powers through meditation and development. And he what's happening? And then he saw festivities down. The people were very busy, and he came down to the ground, and then asked what it was. Then he heard that a Buddha has risen. So the first word, when he heard the word Buddha, it's something that created a inner inside him, some kind of fervor. This is something that I think we should remember always. That we can think of life as start with jati, birth, and end with death. And that's what happens in many other religions. But we as Buddhists, we think of the sansaric life. The thing is, a child of 8 years or 7 years could have been somebody in the earlier life. So it's only that the physically he has gone from this last birth, from where it is, and then he was born here. But we sometimes we don't think of that aspect. Now, even these days, there are so many instances recorded where people with, say, 3 years, 4 years, were geniuses. And the point is that the Buddha, that's why the Buddha said, if a person could shoo a crow, that means, send out a crow, the crow is there. That means he has started his, he can take decisions. And at that particular age, it's possible, because we don't know what is sansaric life is. According to the modern psychology and everything, we have ages, 18, it's again, we don't know, some quantum Buddhism we take as 20. So these things are there. But the important thing is that even in the case of Sumedha, when he heard the word Buddha, it created something, and immediately he wanted something to do, and he was given a patch to clear up, and he was not able to, and he lays on the ground and say with the thought, if by any chance the Buddha crosses, that I'll be a Buddha. Then it's at that point the Buddha Dipankara came up to him and said these words. He said that you will assured me. Look at this particular ascetic. He's a very austere ascetic, and he assuredly be a, a, a Buddha in the future, in eons to come. So that's the first time that Sumed, that he got this assurance from a Buddha. So, so that made him think, and that's important for us to think of. Assuredly, and he immediately, according to what is stated in the Sumedha, the Gatha, Sumedha story, Katha, Sumedha Katha, is that he sat down and then started, and there were so many from the celestials and others right round. When something happens, that it's mentioned in the text that if something happens, there is earthquakes, there are so many things happening and this proclamation by Deepankara, Buddha Deepankara, that here is this ascetic will eons uh, uh, from now, that he'll be a Buddha. There are so many changes that happen, and the celestials also. When so many things happen, like what is mentioned, like the hellfires were doused, there were hellfires, the trees started blooming, all that type of miraculous things happen in nature. That's what is mentioned. But whatever it is, these words also was mentioned by one of the celestials. They're the words that it's not the dalhang, dalham paghan viryam, firmly exert energy. That's what they firmly exert energy. Do not turn back, advance. We discern these two, we, that means celestials, the devas, we discern these two, assuredly you will be a Buddha. So that is the first, the Buddha made this statement, and then the celestials, the others, they also came, they mentioned this, you will be a Buddha, and says, Dallam Paghan, Madhivata, do not turn back, go forward, advance, with firm exert and with energy, a firmly exerted energy. So it's interesting. I will discuss this later. Interesting. Then he confirmed to himself. The first time the Sumedha, the ascetic, said, "Oh, if that be so, if I am assured to be a future Buddha, what should I do? What should I do?" And then, according to this, the Sumedha Katha, one by one, the parami, the 10 parami, first the dana, sila, all those parami came to his mind. And it said, examining, I will examine the things making a Buddha here and there, above, below, the 10 quarters, everywhere, because he himself wanted to find out what is it. And then examining, I saw the first perfection, that of giving, the great path pursued by the great seers of old. So like that, the Dasaparanta. So the point that I want to mention is that here, the Bodhisattva, it's quite interesting if you read this, the sequence of events. Now here becomes ascetic Sumedha. He developed psychic powers. He was coming, he saw these festivities, then he comes down, that's one thing. Then hearing the word there's Buddha, he was awestruck, and it rekindled the fervor within to become a Buddha. And then the Buddha Deepankara, he came to him and said, ascetic, do you see this very severe ascetic, a matted hair ascetic? Innumerable eons from now, he'll be a Buddha in this world. So that's the assurance, the firm assurance that was given. Niyata Vivarana is the word that is used, firm assurance that was given. Then when these words come in from the Buddha and the assurances from celestial beings gave ascetic Sumedha the confidence in him that he will someday he'll be a Buddha. Then he reflects on what has to be accomplished to reach his goal. Now he has got these assurances, but the important thing is, well, how could I do this? It's just not wishing. I can't just I say Nivan Sampat Supat Leva, Nivan Akitwa, we wish that. But the thing is, it has to be exerted within by oneself. So, and there are certain things you have to fulfill. Now, and then he looked at these things and the Saparami, and then as he go along in the according to the Buddha Vansa, he discerns that he gets his the assurances after that from 23 other Buddhas. After Dipankara, there are so many other Buddhas that were there. We know that the 28 Buddhas, fourth is Dipankara, and the 20 is the Buddha Gautama, and between that, all those, the assurances are given. Now let us, this is the sequence as event. Now, ultimately, he became a Buddha, and he's our teacher. And that's something that we have to come in from today. Let's discuss this. What are the factors? What made the Buddha the reality? Years and years later, he'll be a Buddha, and he became a Buddha, and we know his greatness. We all of us has. And what is it? So I see first thing that is important is a clear vision of the goal. He had a clear vision of the goal, and its fixation. It's fixed. It's not something that's wavering. There's no waver in his goal. It's a fixed and a clear vision. This is a Buddha, and he has seen the Buddha. He has seen this, and that is extremely important for anything. If you want to go forward, you know, the most important thing is the most difficult thing also sometimes is to have a fixed goal. If you think of the country today, you know, in Sri Lanka, you know, is there a goal? Is there the goal of all the Sri Lankans? Is it some goal of one person or two persons, three persons? Is it the goal that is given by certain other agencies outside? What is it? Even in our organizations, even in ourselves, in our own life, have we a goal? What is our goal? What do we want to do? If some may think that your Nibbana is far, far away, but Nibbana, if it's possible for a person to get a Nibbana, and that's mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta, that's 7 years, even up to, if you do that diligently, if you do that according to that, the Buddha had said, yes, you could. And the important thing is that you should have a fixed goal. And then you should be able to work towards that. And then after having a goal, what the Buddha did, or Bodhisattva did, to have a plan of action. He didn't go to the Buddha, Dipankara, and, sir, now you assured me that I will be a Buddha. Could you tell me what I should be doing? He didn't do that. He used his powers, the psychic power, as an ascetic, and he looked here and there. He said the 10 celestial worlds here and there, and that's how it is mentioned. And he came across this paramita, the dana paramita, and Sila paramita, nekam, panya, virya, kanti, satcha, and aditthana, loving kindness, metta, and upekka. These are the params. We have to, and these have to be accomplished, and that's an action plan. And then after that, he has to implement that. It's just not having an action plan. You can't go ahead. You have to implement that. And when you implement that, that's the way we have these Jataka stories, what they mention, whatever it is, and course corrections. Now we do that in management. We do that. Are we on the correct path? And how did he do the correct? He saw 23 Buddhas, and the 23 Buddhas gave him the assurance, you'll be a Buddha. And when that assurance was given to venerable the ascetics, or sometimes it was a bhikkhu, all things, whatever it is, in those, it's mentioned in the Buddha Vansa, what he was during that particular time, and all those things are mentioned there. And so he got this assurance, and then with those assurances, he was able to finally accomplish, and he reached the goal that and become a Buddha, and became a Buddha. Now, the point is, there's another important aspect that I want to stress here. Certain people's planning go only up to the attainment of your goal. Not after that. Not after that. But he's a Samma Sambuddha. It could be he's a Pacheka Buddha. The thing is, it's he attains that. But as a Samma Sambuddha, what he mentioned in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta is extremely important. That's something I would like everybody to have a very clear idea. Sometimes we achieve our goal, but after, even politically, I find if something, you achieve something, you get it to that, but you don't know what to do. You have no plans outside. Sometimes there's terrorism in a country and you defeat that terrorism and you're successful, but you don't have the plans after that. You don't know what to do after that, and then you grope in the dark. And then you don't get the benefit of reaching your goal. So this is something that the Buddha, and then very important in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, when Mara, this called Papima, the Mara came to the Buddha and said, oh, now you have attained Buddha, you have exerted, you have attained it. Now why don't you reach Parinibbana? Why don't you attain Parinibbana? Then the words, I just wrote it down. And what the Buddha said, evil one, I will not take the final Nibbana till I have monks and disciples who are accomplished, trained, skilled, learned, knowers of the Dhamma, trained in conformity to Dhamma. We also mentioned this 5, 6 Vyakta Vinita Visarada Bahusutta Dhammadhara Dhammanudhamma Patipanna. But in that is more than the 6 qualities that we think of. He says, correctly trained and walking in the path of the Dhamma. That is Samichi Patipanna. Now we say the Sangha has to be Samichi Patipanna. That it's not only knowing the Dhamma, but we have to train in conformity to the Dhamma, we have to train ourselves correctly and walking in the path of the Dhamma. And he says, who will pass on what they have gained from their teacher. That means it's not only that we should know it, understand it, the ability to express to another, tell to another. And this is what we have seen. Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Kasyapa, Mahakasyapa, all those, Venerable Ananda, all those who is disciples, Mahakaccayana, all those, it's not only that they understood the Dhamma, they lived the Dhamma, but they also should be able to express the Dhamma and teach the Dhamma to another. So this what, and then not only that, he says, declare it, establish it, analyze it, make it clear, till they shall be able to, by means of the Dhamma, to refute. Now, this is something else, to refute false teachings that have arisen and teach the Dhamma of wondrous effect. So I don't want to read if you wish to, I can read Pali also, but it's everything in English in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. If you want to, I think section 37. But how much the 45 years after he becoming a Buddha, achieving after years and years, of trying to perfect the paramitas. And then after that, you said, oh yes, I'm the Buddha. And right, I will now attain Nibbana. That's not that. But he had the plan. And the 45 years after that, we know what trouble, it's not something that that we would envy, the type of problems that we had. And then that's where the Buddha, even in the last birth, he showed that energy. He showed that, come what may, have this energy, the Dalha Paghana Virya, and what is it? In day life, the Buddha, what's one thing that we get confirmed in the Buddha Vansa is that all Buddhas are humans. It's not a revelation. All the Buddhas, right from the beginning, they are born, they've come from the celestial, maybe from south to south, some say anywhere, but they are human beings. And as human beings, they live in this world. And the 8 vicissitudes of life, what is mentioned, labo, alabo, ayaso, yasocha, ninda, pasansaja, sukhancha, dukkha. Now, these are things that even the Buddha, as the Buddha, he had to face. As the Buddha, he has to face. And now we as human beings, we as, we have not reached those states, but we also have these. There's this process of, I see, aging, illness, and death, and all those that things that coming up on one side. And also, when you start living in this world, you have to face this. It's not something that's, you say it's something different. Now, these days that we speak of the problems that we are having, but we have the problems have to have solutions from the beginning. These are challenges. These are something for us to go ahead and do something. And then for that, what is important is just not trying to say manivatta abhikama. No, not that. You need firm energy. Firm energy. Dalha virya. Dalha paggana virya. That's what is mentioned. It's just not manivatta abhikama. Dalha paggana viryang manivatta abhikama. Now, this is something that I have to stress in this talk of mine. That's the virya is extremely important in Buddha Dhamma. Energy is translated as in very many ways. It's called energy, it could be called effort, it could be called endeavor, it could be called exertion, the vigor, all those things are virya. And we have in the Dhamma various aspects of virya that we have. It's the same. And then all of us know about the padana. It's the firmness. And so that there we have the virya energy that we should, the exertions in restraint. Now, this is something that we see the meeting situations. You are a head of an organization, you are maybe a politician or anything like that. There are so many things that come. Even in our day-to-day life, we have to face so many problems. And then the thing is, what we call, we say corruption, the bribery, all those things are there. It is because we don't have that restraint. We don't have that. We don't know how to restrain ourselves. We change. We change our goals. We don't have fixed goals, and we even change. So that's the importance of Sangvara. The importance of abandoning certain things, of pahana. So in our defilement, when you go on this forward path to Nibbana, it has to be energy, endeavor, effort that is required to abandon. So that means each one of us, and I remember once I was mentioning, each one of us, we have to make a reckoning. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And the strengths, and we have to develop those strengths. That is sammavayama. Develop those strengths that we have. And when you have the weaknesses, get rid of those weaknesses. And for that, when you get rid of the weaknesses, we need so much of strength, so much of energy, so much, and the Buddha in some certain stages mentioned, how a person, bhikkhu, we even have to take the tongue and palate, the most severe conditions, but he has the energy to go along without changing his final goal. And that's the type of energy that is required. It's not the wavering type, it's not something, that's all right, we can do it the first time. But it's mentioned, if you do it more than twice, it's the first time you can. But the second or third time, it has become your habit, and that's what you do. So the important thing is that, so that Sangvara and Pahana is something that you have to. And also, we have to develop. It's called Bhavana Pradhana. Bhavana is not just meditation. is really developing your inner strengths, what was mentioned in last year. So the inner strengths have to develop, for which, we have to have bhavana is important. The bhavana is translates the meditation, but actually is a development of the mind, and we have to have that. And then finally, we have to protect araka. And these are important even in lay life, yesterday we have the virya, uttana virya adigato. That means what we have to achieve as a child. If you want to school, you have to have uttana virya. Opposite virya, opposite of that is laziness. Laziness. We call it sloth and torpor. The mental laziness, the physical laziness, that's what it is. And because of that physical and mental weakness, laziness, we can't move forward. And as against that, we have to have this firm energy. And so that's the virya as vayama. Then is virya is also as virya indipada. I just mentioned, you guys no time to discuss all these things. I don't know whether my time may be 5:32. So indipada, then we have the bojjhanga, sambojjhanga, the third, satya sambojjhanga, dhammavichaya bojjhanga, and then we come to virya sambojjhanga, the effort that is required. Those are factors for enlightenment. These are all, if actually we want to attain something in our spiritual life, this is the type of thing this is the path that has been shown by the Buddha. And we have to, and in following that particular path, it's extremely necessary that we have the virya, the dalla, that's what is mentioned, dalla virya, that firm virya is extremely important. The firmly, this. So I think we have almost, this is what I have to say, but I think in conclusion, even I see there is the motto that we use is incomplete. We are manivatta abhikkhava. It's not just manivatta abhikkhava. It is dalha pagana viryang, dalham pagana viryang, manivatta abhikkhava. You have to have that steady, the firm, exert yourself, with energy, with effort. That's extremely important. Whatever circumstances, whether you face the vicissitudes of life. Sometimes, the problem is that we have the labha. So that means, when we gain the fame and other things that we have, the good side of it, we change our course. We get elated. And on the other hand, when we get lost the ill fame and other things, then again with that, we get disentangled, disgruntled and say, what is it? Oh, something. The Buddha has many instances where it's mentioned how we should have our energy and the vigor. So the important thing is finally what is required, if you want, is to firmly exert energy until one's goal is reached. Firmly exert energy. And that, for which we should have a clear vision of the goal. Sum up. We have to have a clear vision of the goal. That's extremely important. If you don't have a clear vision of the goal, you don't know where you're going. You think that that's the goal, and that's not the goal. That may not be the goal, or half-hearted. You should determine. You should find out determine the plan of action. It's just thinking of the goal and praying for that goal. May I get that? You won't get that. You won't reach that. You have to work hard towards that to get that goal. So that means you have to plan of action has to be there, and after the plan of action, you have to implement with self-confidence. You have to implement that with self-confidence, and also with positive thoughts. That's extremely important. With not negative thoughts, the positive thoughts of reaching the goal and facing problems that come your way as challenges. That's important. And then from time to time, you should monitor progress. Like what the Buddha, the assurances that the Buddha got from the other big Buddhas. And then when you attain your goal, you should not get elated. But when you attain Nibbana, you want the elation on that. But in your day-to-day life, when you attain, you just not get elated by that. But you have, most importantly, you have to have a plan of action after accomplishment, which I see is, in many cases, it doesn't, as I see after attaining something, some have changed their lives completely on a different track. So these are what I have to say, and let's hope that this presentation of mine will help all of you, the listeners, my Kalyana Mitta and everyone, to steer your boat efficiently and effectively during the 2023 to reach your cherished goal. Each person has goals. Each person has, it's all mundane. You have certain goals, let it be this and that's important, you know. It's not necessary that all, if you people become bhikkhus, because then they have one goal, that is Nibbana is the final goal, but not the others. But as layman, you can go right up. You can go right up to Sakadagami. You can be a Sopan, Sakadagami, and you develop yourself. And when you reach Anagami, you won't get birth as a human being, Anagami, and also or Nibbana. So whatever it is, whether it's your supernatural goal or we call Lokuttara, or whether it's a Laukika in this world, you should there is a big there is the lesson that we get from the Buddha, our teacher, is something that we should cherish in our life. Thank you very much. May all beings be happy. So that's
much merit, Bhante. Thank you very much for that. You touched so many areas about not turning back and exerting energy and not turning back.